All right, we're going to begin today's formal meeting of the Phoenix City Council. Before we do have a meeting of the Assisted Housing Governing Board. That board is made up of members of the City Council plus one citizen leader, Amador Lopez. So now I will open the meeting of the Assisted Housing Governing Board. Would the City Clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember DeCiccio. Here. Board Member Gallego.
Here.
Board Member Gates. Board Member Lopez.
Here.
Board Member Nowakowski.
Here.
Board Member Pastor. Here. Board Member Waring.
Here.
Board Member Williams.
Here.
Vice Chair Valenzuela. Here. Chairman Stanton.
I'm here. Do we have a motion on the minutes for the June 17th, 2015 meeting of the Assisted Housing Governing Board? Mr. Lopez?
Move so approved.
We have moved motion for approval. Do we have a second? We do have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Do you have a motion on the item number 4 on this agenda, which is the resolution authorizing the city to apply to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Rental Assistant Demonstration Program? Mr. Lopez.
Yes, move so.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any comments by members of this board? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes unanimously. With no further business before the Assisted Housing Governing Board, the meeting is now adjourned. Mr. Lopez, thank you for your service. We appreciate it.
Much. Thanks for
Now we'll call to the formal meeting of the Phoenix City Council to order. City Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilman DeCiccio. Here. Councilwoman Gallego.
Here.
Councilman Gates. Here. Councilman Nowakowski. Here. Councilwoman Pastor. Here. Councilman Waring. Here. Councilwoman Williams.
Here.
Vice Mayor Valenzuela. Here. Mayor Stanton.
Here. We have an interpreter here with us for those citizens who may need her services. Ms. Holm, would you introduce yourself?
Buenas tardes, me llamo Judy, soy intérprete de español. Si alguien necesita el equipo, por favor venga conmigo o con el personal de la ciudad. Gracias.
Thank you very much, Ms. Holm. Next, according to our City Council rules, we have citizen comments. Citizens will have up to 3 minutes to address the City Council. We're not able to dialogue with this because these are on non-agendized items. So now have citizens, do we have citizen comment cards? Right in front of me. The first speaker for citizen comments is Mr. Leonard Clark, up to 3 minutes. And as he's walking up here, followed by Mr. Kim Baker.
Hello, Mayor and Council members. My name is Leonard Clark. Thank you so much for speaking to me, and thank you for my fellow veterans and the soldiers right now who are serving in our United States Armed Forces. It's because of them that I am even able to speak to you right now. I just want to speak as a citizen, all of the controversy that's going on with prayer. I'm not ashamed to say that I hope that there is a God. I'm an agnostic. I believe in good and evil, but the problem is when you officially get up on the diocese and you say people have a choice, but you are unofficially okaying the fact that a religious entity or group can use the city government to tell me what I should do. Yeah, you can say, Mr. Clark, you didn't have a choice. I mean, you had a choice. You could have sat down or you could have stood up. But the thing is, basically, you're shaming, you're causing the potential for the person who is disagreeing with that policy in front of all their peers. That's the same reason why in school, they don't say, Johnny, okay, everybody get up and pray, in public schools, because if, Johnny doesn't get up because his parents said, no, I don't believe in that type of religion, whether it's polytheist, monotheist, whatever it is. I personally don't agree with the views of the other religion that wants to speak today, but you know what? You let all the other religions speak. You let a polytheist priest get up. I'm not sure if it was a member of the Sikh faith, which I'm not against. In America, we can worship God in our own way. But you, by officially allowing it from up there on the diocese, then you have to say, okay, I allow one religion, I do the other. This is exactly what our forefathers wanted. And I know the argument will be made, well, the forefathers, Leonard, they did not want God out of our government. But they would also be the first to tell you they weren't perfect. And in the old world, we had Catholics and Protestants killing each other, and a lot of them, that's what they came here for, and the Puritans and all the rest of them. So I just think a solution is you either continue on making the city manager, who you let pray when the preacher didn't show up, mayor, make him the official high priest, or maybe a better compromise would be, if you want to have a prayer, Councilperson Sal DeCiccio, Thelda Williams, Mayor Stanton, Mr. Waring, you're all holding hands symbolically, you know, in your prayer. Hey, we can have a prayer meeting after this. We can do it. I believe in God. If you don't like that, go jump in a creek. I'm all for that, but you should not be officially telling people, hey, you know, we're going to have this preacher up here, bow your head if you want, and then publicly, if that person doesn't stand up, that's like a type of shaming. But I know, Mayor, that you are a moderate Republican. I mean, after all, you know, we know what a moderate Republicans are, you know, conservative Democrats. So, you know, you can get up there and you can side with the big churches because that's how you know you're going to get elected, you know. But there's a new spirit in this country, and it should be the old spirit. Worship God in your own way. Don't be shamed by you folks getting up there, whether it's a person of the Sikh faith, the Hindu faith, the Christian faith, the Muslim faith. Just let us pray on our own. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clark. For the record, I did ask the city manager to give that prayer, and he very reluctantly agreed to do so. All right, Mr. Kim Baker, you're next, and then followed by Greta Rogers.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Kim Baker, Avondale, Arizona. I think in light of all of the controversy that has manifested itself here in the city of Phoenix and throughout the state of Arizona, I think it's very important that we bring the one entity involved that is adamantly opposed against this. There is a Constitution greater than the American Constitution, and it is substantiated or sustained by God Himself. And I just want to read something for you out of the book of Isaiah for the council. Isaiah 14, starting at verse 12, and it's 5 verses. And it says, "How you are falling from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning. How you are cut down to the ground, you who weaken the nations. For you have said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will also sit on the mount of the congregation. On the farthest side of the north, I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Yet you shall be brought down to Sheol, to the lower depths of the pit. Those who see you will gaze at you and consider your sin. Is this the man who made the earth tremble, who shook kingdoms, who made the world as a wilderness and destroyed its cities, who did not open the house of his prisoners?" I think it's very important that this council consider what is at stake here. There is a destructive attitude out there that would love to destroy this city. But I'm hoping and praying those, and I applaud those that have taken the proactive stance to stand up and say, I'm not for this. I'm hoping and praying that there will be more that gain that same courage. God is not mad at this city until we disown him.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Baker. I'm going to make a request that the additional folks that have submitted cards for citizen requests, if you wish to provide testimony on the issue of the City Council formal meeting invocation, that you save those comments for the item itself. That actually is an agendized item, and there will be opportunity for discussion. So this is not the time for comments on that. We'll have plenty of time for that later on in the meeting. Ms. Greta Rogers, good to see you.
This is in regard to the same overall subject.
Well, if you want to talk about the invocation.
This is public comment. I have a right to make the public comment.
Mr. City Attorney.
I've also submitted a card on the item.
Okay, so I think the time to talk about I'm going to cut you off. You're going to talk about the item now, because the time to talk about the item is during the agendized item. This is not the appropriate time to talk about the agendized item.
I'm not talking about the agenda item specifically.
Ms. Rogers, the floor is yours, and then I'll
Thank you.
use the chair, the discretion of the chair to determine.
I'm going to read the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievance. This situation that came to the attention of the public, I believe it was on Friday that I first heard about it on TV. Satanism is not a religion, it's a cult. Satan, in the American Heritage Dictionary, which is the dictionary I have at home, is defined as devil. Satanism is adherence to a belief in the devil, synonym evil. This is not a recognized established religion, it's a cult, and therefore is not eligible for a religious invocation at a council meeting. You, Mayor, and you, Mr. Holm, as the city attorney, should have had the spine and the courage of conviction when the request was received by the party who requested to have explained it in this manner and told them our meetings are open to the public, both formal and policy, and you may come and speak. Up to 3 minutes is allowed during the public comment period. End of explanation. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So, Ms. Rogers, with all due respect, I gave you fair warning, so I'm going to ask that her card be removed to provide testimony on the agendized items, since she did provide her testimony already. Mr. Carnicle, Gary Carnicle, and then followed by Diane Barker. Again, same thing. If you came to testify on that item, that's great. Please wait for the agendized item. If you provide testimony now, then you'll not have the opportunity to provide testimony on the agenda. You don't get 2 bites of the apple. We have a lot of people here to speak, and it's unfair to give people 2 bites of the apple. Sir, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor and council members, I'm here to speak to you about the use of my tax dollar to people that are doing union or association, labor association business. It's happening in all the bodies in the city where we have contracts. Probably one of the biggest offenders that affects all of us in here is the Phoenix Police Department. You know, they're real short on people. And yet we've got 4 officers that are attending to union business. Supposedly they're doing some work too. I challenge you to check and find out how many hours per day and week that they're putting in doing police work. Also, we have some people on duty. If certain things happen, they have to respond for the union, but they're getting paid by the city. I don't want my tax dollar paid for their wages, their benefits, their retirement. I will have to admit, I'm one of the guys, and the prime guy, that got Ed Cirillo to pass that thing that's putting all the cities in bankrupt, where the police officers get that drop program. Sorry to say, we expected that thing to go out after the first 5 years, and it never happened because, as usual, all good things stick around. Now, evidently, you folks left it to your staffs and stuff for the 2014-16 contract, at least the plea contract. I've been through it. Because if you'd have sat down and read it yourself instead of having your staffs do it, I just can't believe one of you up there would have voted for it. Now, right now, they're in the process of renegotiating to renew that contract. Please, review that contract. It's a violation of the Constitution, state Constitution. You know, we've been to court, we lost on some items, and we need to get it straightened out. If you don't have the time, you have my info, send me a copy. I'll review it for you. That's all I have, sir. I would like to thank Jim Waring, the only member up there that responded to my emails, because every one of you got emails from me. And also, Mr. Zucker, he and I have had numerous correspondence, but I didn't even get a go to H from anybody else. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Carnicle. Diane Barker is the last speaker we have for council comments. I'm going a little longer than I normally would for citizen comments, going through all of them, because I think there are people outside still trying to get in, so I'm trying to get as many people inside the room as possible in advance of our voting agenda. Ms. Barker.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Stanton and council, and my name's Diane Barker, and I will be brief, and I am in District 7, and my councilman is over there, and I'm here today, and I am glad that you're upholding the First Amendment. I believe in that very much so. If I've not agreed with some of your processes, what I did was to fight to see that a rule or a law was changed. What we do is we live within laws, and if we don't like them, we fight to change them. So I thank you for the First Amendment. I hope that this body will, whatever their belief, and that they will talk here or later on in the agenda appropriately, that they will respect another person's free speech. Without that, America really would be nothing. And so what I would like to say, that I've taken some of your comments about transportation and the need to work with the other levels of government, such as Thelda Williams saying we should like to have ADOT, and my councilman saying there is a big bottleneck at I-17 and I-10 over to Maricopa Association of Government for the spine study, and I'm still working with them because they seem to think, oh yeah, we had that. But guess what? We want to look at it from a multimodal. We want to move people in the appropriate way, and that's what the Phoenix Charter said. It's a public good for mobility, and that's number one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Barker. So that's the end of the citizen comment portion of our meeting. The city manager, my understanding is there are people outside still trying to get in. Could we get some reasonable estimate from the professionals who are trying to provide security, let people know how long it's going to take? I'll try to get to the non-voting portions of our meeting now, but to give people as much time as possible. Otherwise, we may even take a short break. Maybe next time we can have an extra security line out there as well. Okay, so maybe we can find out what the reasonable estimate is to get everybody inside the room here. Next on the agenda, City Clerk, would you please read the 24-hour paragraph?
The titles of the following ordinance and resolution numbers on the agenda were available to the public at least 24 hours prior to this council meeting and therefore may be read by title or agenda item only. Ordinances number G110 and G6117 through 6130, S42275 through S42299, and resolutions number 21403 through 21407.
You got it? Okay, thank you very much. Next on the agenda is meeting minutes from past meetings. Councilwoman Pastor, have you had a chance to review the formal meeting minutes from January 6, 2016?
I have, and I move approval.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Those meeting minutes pass unanimously. Next we have boards and commissions. Do we have a motion on the mayor's proposed boards and commission nominations?
Motion to approve mayor's boards and commissions nominations.
We have a second? We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. How about city council member recommended board and commission nominations?
Motion to approve city council boards and commissions nominations.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. We have many citizens who have agreed to serve on key boards and commissions to be sworn in here today. So I'll come down on the floor and issue the swearing in, and then afterwards, members of the public will come behind the dais, and council members would like to say thank you in advance for your service. All right, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of the office of, according to the best of my ability, so help me God. Thank you for your service. Very much appreciated. Appreciate your service. See you. Yes, sir. Good to see you. All right, good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. Thanks for your service. All right, thank you very much. Thanks in advance for your service. Service on boards and commissions for the city is one of the most important service members of the public can provide, and it is your time is appreciated. Next on the agenda are recommendations as it relates to liquor license applications. Vice Mayor, do we have an omnibus motion as it relates to liquor license applications?
Motion to approve items 1 through 17.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Are any cards on those items? Or any members of the council have any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those pass unanimously. Next on the agenda, I think that's all the liquor licenses. We didn't have any recommended for disapproval. Okay. So the next on the agenda is ordinances, resolutions, new businesses, planning and zoning. Mr. City Clerk and Vice Mayor, are we ready for an omnibus motion on those items?
Yeah, we're ready. Motion to approve items 18 through 68, except the following items. 18D, 21, 24, 29, 43, 43.1, 43.4, 50, 51, and 68, noting items 43.1 and 68 will be held until the end of the meeting, and item 43 is as corrected, and item 55, as amended, will be with a revised site plan and agreement with property owner and neighbor, and item 67 is being requested by the applicant to be continued to February 17, 2016, and excluding these items for public comment. 19, 43, 43.2, and 51.
Mayor, could I ask that 43.3 be held? I'd like to make a comment, please.
Yes, that item will be held as well.
43.3.
Are any council members like to hold out any additional items for comments or questions?
Could you list the ones that are held out?
Items,
All right, so the question by Councilman Waring,
It's just a list of the held out.
which the list of held out. I'll give it a shot. Ready? 18D, 19, 21, 24, 29, 43, 43.1, 43.2, 43.3, 43.4, 50, 51, and 68. Did you want any other ones held out?
Nope.
Any other holdouts for the members of the council? So that's the motion. Do we have a second? We have a second. Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski.
Yes.
Pastor. Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, so those items pass unanimously. Next item on the agenda is item 18D. 18D is a proposed membership to the National Association of Clean Water Agencies. Do we have a motion on 18D?
Move approval.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any cards on 18D? Any comments by members of this council? Questions? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Waring.
No.
Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, so by a vote of 7-2, the motion to have membership in the National Association of Clean Water Agencies passes the City Council. Next item on the agenda is item number 19. Do we have a motion on item number 19?
Item 19.
We have a motion on 19. Do we have a second?
Yes.
We do have a second. Item number 19 is the proposed 17th Avenue and Bryles Road annexation. We have a few cards on item number 19. It may take a few moments for not everyone who wants to participate in the meeting is physically in this room. They're in other rooms, so we'll have to give people a little extra time to get here. But Allison McKee, are you here? You wish to provide testimony, followed by Diane Habener, followed by Kathy Doucette. And that is all. I have other cards opposed, not wishing to speak. Those are the three that wish to speak. Each of you have up to 2 minutes to provide testimony. Ms. McKee, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. My name is Allison McKee. I'm opposed to the annexation of the property in my neighborhood at 17th Avenue and Bryles Road. My husband and I sought out a home in an unincorporated area of Maricopa County. We enjoy living in the county and the privileges it provides us. We are much more self-sustainable with a private well water septic. We provide some of our own food with the animals that we are permitted to keep. We have a garden fertilized with composted manure from all of our animals. The encroachment of the city of Phoenix is not welcome. We have learned from city lawyers that historically, Phoenix has not annexed county islands that do not wish to be. However, we do know that the city has the power to do so. This is a threat to my family, our lifestyle, and the value of our home. Only properties bordering the land currently in the city of Phoenix can request annexation. By annexing the property in question, the city would be opening the door to other properties in the area to annex. This could have a domino effect on our neighborhood and make blanket annexation more appealing to the city. If my personal property was annexed, I know that we would be able to keep our current privileges we now enjoy. However, in the event that we sold, some of those privileges would be lost, as the city of Phoenix S1 zoning differs from county RU 43. This would bring down the monetary value of our property. I would also like to bring to your attention that the owners of the property in question lied to residents and city workers at a public meeting on October 7th. The owners claimed that they did not know that the property was not buildable with the current zoning. Public documents signed upon the purchase of the land prove that the owners had full disclosure on this matter. The owners claim to want to build a single-family home. However, they have already worked with Taylor Morrison Homes to bring city water to the edge of their adjacent property. The lie told at the meeting, paired with the partnership with Taylor Morrison, stinks of a housing development to me. Ladies and gentlemen, the only stink I want to smell in my neighborhood is that of horse manure. I ask you all to vote no on the annexation of the property at 17th Avenue and Bryles.
Thank you, Ms. McKee, very much. Ms. Habener, Diane Habener, did you provide testimony up to 2 minutes?
Yes. Good afternoon. I live at 25312 North 16th Avenue. I chose this piece of property to live at. It's 2.5 acres so that I could have my horses and my animals and specifically be in the county and have less regulations from the city. I'm a licensed real estate broker in 2 states and have been practicing residential real estate since 1980. When I lived in another state, I had a similar piece of property that was in a county island, and I watched it being encroached on gradually until there was no place for me to have my horses. And I can see the same thing starting to happen here, and it creates a domino effect. I agree with Allison. There's absolutely no reason to allow this to go through. The people knew when they bought the property that it wasn't buildable, and that was disclosed to them. So that should have some value as to how you look at this. Anyway, I'm very opposed to this, and I hope that all of the council members will also be. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Habener. Next speaker is Kathy Doucette, up to 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, City Council members. My name is Kathy Doucette, and you've all gotten an email from me, and you've also gotten a petition that was signed by 28 of our other community neighbors explaining many of the things that were just talked about previously. So I kind of find it ironic that I'm sitting here asking the Phoenix City Council to not force me to be a member of the great city of Phoenix. But don't take it personal, because it's really more about, I'm a private property owner, and right next to my property is, I'm adjacent to the property that is adjacent to the property that you are voting on today. The piece that's next to me also cannot be built on. So if you would approve today, then you can count on that being the next piece of property that's coming up for annexation, because it's not the full acre that's required. And Taylor Morrison put that water in, and there's deals happening under the table, and I'm here to say, please, please protect my rights, and please protect my property, and please preserve our county island.
Thank you very much. Also opposing but not wishing to speak, Ms. Valerie King, 1732 West Yearling. Linda Slay, 25411 North 16th Avenue. It appears that the annexation, if successful, will be in District 1. So, Councilman Williams, I would turn to you. Do you have a motion on, or excuse me, any comments on 19?
I do, Mayor. Thank you. This property owner came in last fall to ask about annexation. They needed this triangle of property to build a house. What we are doing is annexing that piece of property only. It does not apply to any of the other area that's still in the county. In my district, there's a large swath of county property still there that goes back to the 40s. And we are making no attempt to initiate any annexation of that property. But as property owners have come in on an individual basis, we have approved zoning, or not zoning, but annexation. They have not asked for any zoning changes for it to be developed in, suggested, a housing development. They don't have the zoning to do that at this time, and that would have to be a whole nother formal process, and I have not agreed to that in any way. But I do move approval of this annexation.
Second. Any additional comments by members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, the item passes unanimously. The next item on the agenda is item number 21, acceptance of the Gila River Indian Community Gaming grants. Do we have a motion on 21, Vice Mayor?
Motion to accept item 21.
Second.
A motion and a second. Councilman Pastor has a potential conflict of interest and will not be participating in the item. Any cards in this item? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, that item passes unanimously, noting Councilman Pastor's potential conflict. All right, next item on the agenda is item number 24. This item was continued from a previous council meeting. It concerns a license with Cemex Construction Materials. Do we have a motion on item 24? Councilman Nowakowski, please.
I have a motion to approve item 24, amending the license with Cemex Construction with the amendment that the royalties received are allocated back to the Phoenix Parks Department.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Are there any cards on item 24? Inger Erickson wanted to make sure she did not lobby for this. All right, roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Will the new parks money only be spent in District 7, or will it be distributed around the city?
Mayor, and the project that they used it for. Exactly.
Whatever's the best for the city. All right, good. Next item on the agenda is item number 29. Item number 29 is a request by professional staff to approve an award contract for sports facility consulting services to Barrett Sports Group. Vice Mayor, do we have a motion on item number 29?
Motion to approve item 29.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Are there any cards on 29? Any members of the council like to make any comments on item number 29? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, so the item passes on a 8-1 vote. Next item on the agenda is item number 43. Do we have a motion on 43?
Motion to approve item 43 as corrected.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We have one card on item number 43. Ms. Greta Rogers, did you wish to provide up to 2 minutes of testimony on item number 43? This is allocation of Proposition 104 resources for for street overlay projects throughout the city.
Good afternoon, Council and Mayor. Is it on?
Please get our mic.
Is this on?
Yes.
Hooray. Good afternoon, Council and Mayor, and all people in attendance. My name is Greta Rogers. This is essential item. There's nothing, there's no fluff, there's no option of should we or should we not. We must. My only stipulation is that all these be scheduled and financed adequately to meet National Transportation Safety Board standards. We can no longer fund the Street Transportation Department with the equivalent of cheap tips at Denny's for a lousy cup of coffee. Do what is essential, that is right. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Rogers. Comments by, let's see, did you make comments? Councilman Gates, please.
Thank you, Mayor. This deals with some of the first streets projects under the Transportation 2050 item that was approved by the voters last year. Of the top 59 projects on this list, only 4 of the 59 are in District 3. The residents of District 3 are going to be paying a lot of this tax. They deserve more projects than what have been provided in this listing, so I hope to see much better moving forward, but based upon the paltry number of projects in District 3, I will be voting against this item today. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councilman Gates. I would ask our professional staff maybe to give a sense of how the street improvement, street overlay projects were selected. Was consideration given to districts or was based on the highest need?
Mayor, members of the council, I'm Mario Paniagua, Deputy City Manager. With me here is Ray Dovalina, Street Transportation Director, and Assistant Director Keeney Knudsen. Just as a quick overview of the process, I know we have a busy agenda today, but Streets is here to discuss more details about the process if needed. But essentially, there is a pavement condition assessment that's done using a streets van that's driven around. It's attached with cameras and sensors and sophisticated computer system that assesses the condition of the pavements. It's driven around the city on every road, on every street, and gets updated every 2 years for every street. That data that's collected gets built into a database that generates a pavement condition index. And once that index is established, staff begins to put together the recommended list of maintenance projects and cross-references that list with other factors like the timing of road cuts and road maintenance that's going to be performed, road cuts by water services and other utilities to ensure that there's coordination and that there's no unnecessary recutting of the streets, essentially. The process is meant to ensure that the maintenance list starts with an analysis of the roads that are in the worst condition throughout the city. And so, generally speaking, over multiple years, the roads throughout the city, when you look over multiple years of projects, are going to be more proportionally distributed among the districts. On any given year, it might not be exactly spread out among the districts, but over the years it is proportional to the amount of roads that are in the districts. And also, generally speaking, the age of the roads does impact where those projects are going to be. So some of the older roads are going to be the most in the worst condition and be where those maintenance project priorities are.
All right, thank you very much. Councilman Warren?
Thank you. To comment on Councilman Gates' comments. So I'm also unhappy. I was unhappy with Prop 104 and the division of money to begin with. I've been given statistics by our transportation department. I believe it's $9 billion of the $31 billion roughly goes to light rail, and only about $1.2 billion goes to actually building or redoing streets over the 35 years. I mean, that's the statistics I was given. If I'm wrong or misstating, please let me know.
Mayor, Councilmember Waring, the amount that's going to be allocated toward the street over the 35-year period is about $2.3 billion in total.
But a lot of that is making them more walkable and bike lanes and so forth, right? I'm talking about actual street improvements being redone, the stuff that people call our office to get fixed.
So that does include improvements to sidewalks, and extensions of bike lanes and those as well.
Which is great to have, but, you know, crumbling streets is a bigger problem, to my mind.
The $2.3 billion does cover the maintenance in addition to the completion of streets that are in needs of upgrades or completion of extensions as well. So it's in total.
And to Councilman Gates's point, so $9 billion to light rail, which doesn't come anywhere close to my district. In the 35 years, it'll still be below the current southern boundary, not even considering population increases and redistricting. So my residents will really, in their lifetimes, unless they are very young, they will never have light rail in their district. But they will have a lot of streets. And we're spending a lot less on streets than we're spending on the light rail, which is how you get to a situation where Councilman Gates only has 4 projects in his district, and I have whatever I have in mind. So this issue comes up repeatedly. I go out with the streets guys all the time. They do a great job with the resources that they have. But that, for argument's sake, we can take $1.2 billion or $2.2 billion, regardless. You got to divide it by 8, because the districts that are light rail heavy and have all that spending in their districts, they also get their 1/8 of all the money for streets. Basically, that's the way it's been explained to me, and that pretty much is congruent with what you just said. We are also, I found out, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, wherever we're doing light rail, we're redoing those streets too, just because. So the people who have light rail are not only getting the 1/8 of their spending, they're getting the light rail money, and they're also getting other streets thrown in besides. It's not fair to my district, which is why I voted against that plan, or argued against that plan. It's very frustrating to hear. It's very hard to explain to constituents that they are paying for something they are not going to use. Now, a lot of them might have voted for it, and I would characterize that perhaps as an altruistic move. I was criticized at the time for being too parochial in basically supporting the needs of my district, but I think now my concerns about this are certainly bearing fruit. It's extremely frustrating that we're in this situation. Does this item 43 in front of us right now, does this contain money for light rail? This is just money for the street improvement? I believe it's just, yeah.
Just street maintenance.
So I am going to support it because I'm not going to vote against projects in my district on this. But I will say, I also want us to be careful about the money. So the other day, we went out to an area where we had redone the streets last year. They were in bad condition. So they went in, they put in the crack seal, then they did the overlay. The street was perfect. The constituents were happy. And you know what we did? Because it was still on the list to do crack seal, I guess this fall, they went back and did the crack seal again over the top of the old crack seal. Oh, it happened, Mario. I was there, and it's been confirmed now. So I guess I was surprised the record keeping was such that they would crack seal the same streets twice. The constituents actually went out and talked to the guys doing it and were like, no, we're good. It's already fine. So for those who are unfamiliar, you know, you have cracks in the streets, you fill it up with a dark material, then you do the overlay. I think that's the correct terminology. Well, they went back and put more crack seal, so now it's all sort of pockmarked again. We can't undo it, but that is hard to explain to constituents. I certainly don't want that to happen again. I'm not sure how that happened, particularly since constituents were waving their hands apparently at that time and saying, don't do this, terrible thing, but it happened anyway. So we have very limited resources, and it's embarrassing for me to have to explain how that happens. So you guys do a great job with the resources we have, but got to make sure that there's communication in situations like that, because that was embarrassing. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lehman, maybe you could explain what type of work is going to be done with the resources for Proposition 104 for arterial major collector overlays?
Mayor and council members, regarding the types of work, there's a series of different elements that we're going to be doing, starting off with the major overlays. That's the arterials and major collector overlays. The second type is the arterial and major micro sealing that we're going to be doing for the next batch, and then followed with treatment of tire rubberized asphalt treatment. So all of these treatments are providing longevity and preservation for our roads. The last piece is, as noted, it's crack seal. So we are always looking at prolonging what we have out there with these types of roads. So those are the types of treatments that we're going to be using with this program.
All right, thank you very much. Councilman Waring, did you have some additional questions?
I just want to make one statement. So I don't want what I said before about the screw up on the re-cracking the already fixed street, or re-crack sealing the already fixed street. Mark Locke, who goes out with me regularly to look at our streets, does a great job of giving the statistics I provided about how much money from the different programs and so forth, explaining it. He's very good at turning bureaucrat ease into actual human language that people can understand, including me, so I appreciate that. So I'm no way holding him responsible, but somewhere down the line there was a communication screw up. We can't afford it with the frankly de minimis amount of money we're spending on streets compared to the light rail. So thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Additional comments? Councilman Gallego, please.
Wonderful. So this is just one of many votes we will take related to streets. It does not include new build of streets, many of which will be in our quickly growing northern regions of the city. It also does not include the dramatic expansion of public transit options, including options for our senior citizens who cannot drive, who will now be served by Dial-A-Ride and other services. So this is a dramatic expansion to our entire city, including the northern regions. So there's a lot in Proposition 104. This is just one aspect of the streets program. There are many other funding sources for the streets program. And I think it's important that we recognize that this is an ongoing project. This addresses the older areas of our city, but there will be a lot of infrastructure upgrades, including some new streets that we've just voted to bring in, that will bring in hundreds of new jobs with the economic development potential. And I believe this is a doubling of the streets funding. So could you speak to that?
Councilwoman Gallego and Mayor, basically this is going to be 2.5 times the number of streets and the major streets and arterials for this program. Overall, compared to the current program that we have right now in the fiscal year 2016, we're actually doing about 65% more. So it's leveraging what we already have right now and actually doing 2.5 times more on the major streets and arterials.
Wonderful. So we've gotten some low grades from civil engineers about our investments and the cycle on which we replace streets, and now we are making a big change in that. So this is a good news vote for the city of Phoenix, and I look forward to supporting it.
Thank you very much, Councilman. Councilman DeCiccio, please.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the presentation today and for the comments. Jim Waring he and I always agree, and so I'm not going to repeat a lot of the things he said, but let me just sum up basically where we're at on that. I'm not as concerned, and I am, I'd like to see in my district, so if anyone from my district, don't get me wrong on it, but at the end of the day, my biggest concern is that it be done right. And what some of the things that Councilman Waring was talking about literally were done when the federal government was just dumping money on us, and the comments I was getting, this is before you, Ray, and things have improved an immense amount under your leadership, and I appreciate it. But when you start throwing a lot of money at something, then they started really creating a lot of waste. That doesn't do anybody any good. They were ripping up streets that literally just got paved, and the comment I got back from some people was, well, we got to spend the money. Well, no, you don't. You know, whether it's the federal government, our money, whosever money it is, it's still all of our money. It doesn't matter whether it was money that was designated for another part of the country. Let them have it rather than waste it. It doesn't make sense to us. The one thing I want to make sure I get on the record is that each of these projects are going to be competitively bid. And that's, you know, I know the answer, but I want to make sure it's on the record.
Mayor, Councilman DeCiccio, with our pavement preservation and our pavement overlay programs, we use on-call contractors that are job order contracts. So we go through and negotiate each one of these projects with those contractors. So they've gone through a competitive process to get these job order contractors on board, but they're on call for up to 5 years that we use these contractors to be more efficient in how we deliver the pavement preservation work.
And one of the things, if I could, and this will be the last one, Mayor, I know we got a big agenda, but I want to make sure you just get this down too. There were, in the last bids that we looked at some of these things, a lot of it dealt with, these are mechanical things that get done. It's no different than, you know, basically putting down a rock on some of these issues. I know it sounds basic, but when we were competitively bidding, price was the primary factor when it came to this, correct?
Mayor, Councilman DeCiccio, on these particular job order contracts, we used competitive processes that include other things other than price as well. So
other
yes.
things, but price was a main factor in how this was competitive. But I remember we went through this in my office. Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Any other comments by members of this council? Councilwoman Williams.
Mayor, may I make a comment based on
Please.
letting these contracts? Ray, I want to make sure that whoever gets this, that in that contract, that you hold them to a quality standard, because I know that you've come in and repaved some of my neighborhoods, and the edge has crumbled, especially in cul-de-sacs. And it hasn't been repaired yet, but I want to make sure that doesn't happen in the future as we go forward, that we hold them responsible, and if it's not done right the first time, they go out and do it a second time at no cost.
Mayor and Councilwoman Williams, certainly, we're always looking at trying to upgrade our delivery of those projects, and we do have some challenges when we have different types of treatment. So we're looking at how we're delivering that service and construction aspects to that to minimize those issues that we're having on the cul-de-sacs.
Are there any other comments from members of this council? I'll just add that I'm very excited that the first resources allocated from Proposition 104, which is overwhelmingly supported by the people of the city of Phoenix, is going to major arterial and major collector overlays to street improvements. Obviously, during the worst of the economic times, unfortunately, our budgets for major street overlays, street improvements went in the wrong direction, where we're not able to do nearly as much. With some of the challenges that our friends in the legislature dealt with, HERF money was cut from cities across the state, and that was a significant source of resources that we use for street overlay. So we said we've got to roll up our sleeves and do more ourselves. That's exactly what Proposition 104 was all about. And I just want to make sure it's clear, I support our professional staff using their best judgment about going to the areas of highest need. We can always be parochial, and that's probably the very easy thing to do when you are in elected office. When I represented Ahwatukee Foothills, I can tell you, some people in my district get frustrated because they thought more police services went to other parts of the city more than in my district. And I had to explain to them that I trust the police chief to allocate resources based upon the greater good of the city. You could imagine how often I heard from my friends living in South Phoenix when tens of millions of dollars was allocated for Pecos Park, a major regional park, suggesting, well, why should that go to the newer parts of the city when the older parts of the city have been waiting for decades for parks of that quality? Reach 11, I would say, is in the same category. Some question why the city was spending tens of millions of dollars on a major regional park. Isn't that unfair? And my suggestion was, I hope and pray that people from all over the city will come to Ahwatukee Foothills and use this public resource. By the way, including from across the entire Valley of the Sun. We want people to utilize these investments. And so I might politely suggest, respectfully suggest, that as we make these investment decisions, we look at what is the greater good of the entire city. I was an unabashed supporter of downtown Phoenix and took a lot of heat for it when you represent the far-flung parts of the city, but having a great downtown makes for a great city. and every elected official has to realize that. So at least for me, I would always stand for the proposition that we don't want to politicize police resources and services. We don't want to politicize street resources, that we go to the areas where the greatest need is in the community. And that is the right approach as we continue, fortunately, to be able to allocate resources from Proposition 104. All right, with any other comments from the council? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
No.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, the item passes on an 8-1 vote. What is the next item? Vice Mayor, 43.2. Okay, we said we're going to move 43.1. We're going to hopefully whip through most of this agenda. I know there's a lot of cards here. We want to get through the other items as quickly as possible. 43.2 would, if it's a successful vote, will authorize professional staff to sell the downtown Sheraton Hotel. Do we have a motion on 43.2?
Motion to approve item 43.2.
We have a motion. We have a second. There is a few cards on 43.2. In favor of the proposal is Brent Kleinman. Brent, did you want to provide, are you here in the room? There you are. Good to see you. Up to 2 minutes of testimony. Ms. Greta Rogers, you could come forward now and provide 2 minutes after Mr. Kleinman is done, followed by Ms. Diane Barker. Mr. Kleinman, the floor is yours. Good to see you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. I just want to commend the city in putting this deal together. The price is more than I think any of the members of the city or the council envisioned getting for the hotel when they agreed to this $300 million price tag. And this hotel needed to be built when it was built, and I know it's been a burden on the city, and I know some of the money that's gone into this has been a point of contention for the city council, but without this, I don't believe the city would have progressed to where we are today in 2016. So I commend the leadership for taking that risk when you did, and now, I don't want to say reaping the reward, but concluding this project in a way that is not harmful to our finances and not harmful to the city. So I'm happy to support this sale of the Sheraton and look forward to where we can go next as a city in the downtown area as a result of concluding this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kleinman, for your testimony here today. Ms. Rogers, Greta Rogers is next, followed by Diane Barker.
Mayor and Council, my name is Greta Rogers. I'm glad you're getting rid of the dead horse. It stunk for a long time. How can you get nonprofit status for a hotel and a convention center, both of which make money, and the hotel hopes to make a profit, which it hasn't? But that's the purpose of private enterprise. What kind of nonprofit number is given to this kind of a situation? Mr. Holm? Do you have an answer?
I'm not sure. First of all, Ms. Rogers, I appreciate the nature of the question. I don't think the city attorney is the right person to direct it. Do you have a particular question about the financing of the hotel?
I want a complete audit published of this hotel through 1/31/16. Don't give me general figures. That isn't the truth, and you know it as well as I do. And this city and these citizens are sick and tired of being BS'd by the city and the council. I want a full audit published in the Republic. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Rogers. Maybe someone from staff can direct her. I know it's been undergone significant audits through the Hotel Corporation. As it results, they're publishing in the Republic. That is a private entity. We can't control what the Republic publishes. Ms. Barker, you're next.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Diane Barker in District 7. And some of the things that Greta Rogers was talking about was online yesterday of people asking, about the offers and how they were done. It's my understanding that the City Council asked the Downtown Hotel Corporation to make the offers. And they asked if it was public record, and I said yes. Then I provided the link that the city of Phoenix has for the audits for many years, and although I did not look at all the audits, it looks like there's vast amount of information that is public that can be accessible for the downtown hotel partnerships through www.phoenix.gov. Now, what I do know, and I've talked about with several people, that the city will receive monies from taxes from the room rents. We're not getting property tax. We have given a $1 ground lease. The city wants to control the fact that these purchasers would not change, demolish, and maybe build something else. These purchasers, looks like that it's a mitzvah. We're very lucky to get this offer. These people are off $300 million cash. The city renegotiated the debt from 330 down to 306. The closing costs are coming out of the facilities management, which we have money in there for this deal. And the big thing about it is if these people that are operating this, is they're backed by an international company that's worth $200 billion. Now, if they're coming to the Valley, maybe they'll do some other good things. And catch this, Mayor, you might want to accept that KFYI thing, because Mike Broomhead said, this is a gorgeous hotel. He says, you know, I want to come down to downtown Phoenix, and his partner on radio says, I do too. We never seem to get there. We need to get more people to want to come downtown and see what's going on down here. Meet me downtown Monday.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Barker. I have no other cards on this item. I'll now turn to members of the council. Does any council member have any comments or questions? Councilman Waring, please.
Thank you. So I guess for staff, who I see sitting there, we are losing $34 million on the hotel overall. Is that a fair figure when all is said and done?
Mr. Blue?
Councilman Waring, Paul Blue with the City Manager's Office. I will turn that question over to our Chief Financial Officer.
As Mayor, members of the council, as we've stated, we have lost $29 million through the Sports Facilities Fund to date. That's money that we've considered to be lost. We also are anticipating losing about $3.2 million where we're going to have to write a check when we close this transaction in June. There are, as we're going through all the accounting from 2005, when we issued the bonds, through today, there are some instances where the city has fronted some monies in hopes to be repaid through operations of the hotel. And so we're assuming that if you're looking at what we've lost, if we sell the hotel in June versus selling the hotel in a couple of years, we're probably going to have to write those receivables off. And we're looking at probably an additional $14 million related to that.
Okay, so it's actually, it's a little different than I think I heard before. 29 million plus, did you say 3.2 plus 14?
That's correct.
Okay, so we're losing, for anybody who says it's a big success, you know, over less than 10 years of having the hotel, we're going to lose, you know, $40, $50 million, something like that.
Yes, and Mayor and City Council, one thing that I'd like to stress is we were going to recover that money through the hotel operations because we have refinanced it and had very low debt service payments. What has happened is now we've got this deal to sell the hotel for $300 million. We were anticipating selling the hotel for maybe $225, give or take $20 million. So we're still in a much better position financially to sell the hotel today.
Well, I'm not complaining about selling the hotel. I'm pleased as punch that we're getting this off the books. If the following question can be answered in the affirmative, the 40 to 50 million, whatever it turns out to be with the accounts receivable and so forth, that's it? There's no more obligation for this hotel after this with this deal?
That is correct.
So the bleeding is stopped, even though maybe we could have rolled the dice and held it for a couple more years and got some of that 14 million roughly back. That's certainly not worth the risk that we would suddenly only have an offer for 225 million. I mean, you know, I think we are maybe perhaps a little surprised that we're getting this kind of offer, but at the same time, it is costing some money. But I definitely think it makes sense from this perspective when you lay it out like that. So I'll be supportive. We never should have got into this in the first place. I disagree with speakers that said we should have. Just the size of the loss I mean, $40 to $50 million, that's a lot of money that could have been spent on just about anything else and probably been more productive. So, but I appreciate your guys' work on this, and it's good you're bringing us this. And again, just to repeat, we have no more obligation with this after this. There will be no more losses once the deal is officially done, which will be when, by the way?
Mayor, Councilman Waring, we need to enter into a purchase contract, execute a lease. We expect sometime no later than June.
Mr. City Manager, you have some comments on this?
So I was going to say, Councilman Waring actually summed it up correctly. When we originally were contemplating selling it, we thought we could sell it within 3 years for a number, as the Chief Financial Officer said, of somewhere between $225 and $250. The fact that we got an offer now for $300 makes it worth that, what she said, and I think you summed that up correctly.
Thank you.
All right, Councilman DeCiccio, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Only in government could you declare a multi-million, $40 to $50 million loss a victory and run a victory lap. I mean, that's the insanity of this hotel goes back into the 1990s. I want to walk people through a little bit of a history here and how much money that is and what that means. Now, you can be told, and you've been told, well, it's not really city taxpayer money. No, you own this hotel, and unfortunately, that decision to build this hotel is now going to have an impact on everyone here. The purchase price, the original price of this hotel was about $350 million, correct? About $350. We're selling it for $300 million. You know, I like the fact that we're getting out of this. This also tells you and gives you an example of why government should never get into the business of something that's none of their business. You know, we should be funding streets, parks, things like that. That is where we should be. I know there's other issues going to be heard today, but this is a significant issue at the City of Phoenix. It's not just this, it's other things that that the city's gotten involved in that we should not be in. It's because we lack a strategic plan, a strategic direction at the City of Phoenix that a few of us up here have been asking for many years. What is important, what isn't? What is strategic, what is not strategic? What is a function that we should be doing? What is a function we should not be doing? Or should someone else be doing those functions? Believe it or not, we're a $3.5 billion operation. We don't have that. We don't have that direction here at the City of Phoenix. A few of us up here have been demanding that. It's gotten nowhere. So what I want to do is walk us through just a little history, because I think it's important that this public understand exactly how this hotel came about and how the City of Phoenix does things sometimes that I think they're just not right. Back in the 1990s, I fought against this hotel, but the City of Phoenix went forward with it. In the 1990s, a court ruled that the scheme put together was illegal, and it stopped the first hotel. I left the Phoenix City Council, and then in 2003, miraculously, this came up again with a new scheme. Whenever you create a scheme to get around the law, you have a problem, like they did with this hotel, okay? So literally, if you look at it, what occurred back then, there was not one, I wish there was at least one, but there wasn't one private sector partner that wanted to invest in this. Not one. Okay, so that should tell you something. So it's not just this, it's other issues that we have to deal with over here. It's the lack of strategic focus, the lack of direction, and the lack of the will to do the right thing and stay focused on those things that we need to get accomplished. I'm going to be voting for this because it gets us off our books, but I think everybody in here needs to realize how much $50 million means. Think about that. That's how much the City of Phoenix lost on this bad, horrible decision. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you very much, Councilman. Any additional comments by members of this council? So the motion is to authorize the sale of the hotel. We have a second. Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela. Yes. Mayor Stanton.
Yes, the item passes on an 8-0 vote. Next item, I believe, is 43.3. Is that right, Vice Mayor? Do we have a motion on 43.3? Authorization to enter into a development agreement with Farmers Insurance Exchange. It would create 1,000 jobs in District 1, I believe.
I believe so. And I'm very excited and can't tell economic staff how appreciative I am. They have worked on this. We were tough competition with 2 or 3 other states and cities, and they pulled it off. It's been known as Tiger. That's the secret code word we've had for several months. I was sworn to secrecy and crossing my fingers, and to know that they're going to put in a headquarters here in District 1, over 1,000 new jobs plus construction is very exciting. So I thank you, and I move approval.
All right, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any cards on this item? Any additional comments by members of the council? Councilwoman Gallego.
Just wanted to congratulate Councilwoman Williams. This is a big win for District 1, and thank you to our staff as well for their hard work to deliver high-wage jobs. We don't have a lot of high-level headquarters type employment, and the more we can get this, the better. So congratulations to all who have worked hard on this for many, many months.
Thank you very much. Any additional comments? I'll just add, I know our economic development team has worked really hard on this, so congratulations to you. Thank you for putting in the additional time and strategy on major projects like this. It ain't easy, but worthwhile, and it's going to do very well by District 1 and the entire city of Phoenix. Any additional comments? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Yes. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, item passes unanimously. Next item is item 43.4, a proposed resolution supporting a 3-day music and arts festival at Steele Indian School Park in District 4. Correct. Okay. All right, so do we have a motion on 43.4?
I move a motion.
We have a motion to approve. We have a
Second.
Comments or no comments? We have a couple cards, but not wishing to speak. In favor, Steve Feener. Kathleen Santon. Where's Kathleen? Where she is. Thank you for her great, oh, there. Good to see you. And David Kreider, CEO of Downtown Phoenix, Inc., also in favor. Do we have any comments by members of this council?
I'd like to thank our
Vice Mayor.
I'd like to thank our city staff and also the 3 people that you just mentioned. 3 people that I remember first hearing about this from Kathleen, Ms. Santon, and this is one of those things that help put Phoenix on the map, and it's very exciting. I think if you were to speak with any one of those 3 people that you just mentioned, Mayor, they would be quick to give the credit to someone else, but that just kind of tells you about the coalition that's been built. And Phoenix is just an exciting place to be, and this goes a long way with our arts and culture as well. So this is a big deal for all of us. It's going to be a great time, and it's going to do wonders for our economy as well.
Councilwoman, thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilwoman Pastor, it's in your district.
I'm very excited that Indian Still will be up and rising, or it has been rising, but it will be known for the center and the heart. In addition to that, the fact that Superfly and the City of Phoenix and all the neighborhoods will be working together for the mitigation of all the traffic and be able to make sure we're using our light rail and our transit system and demonstrate what a great city Phoenix is. So I am super excited for the 3-day festival. And also will attract the arts and many people from out of state too, within our state, but then out of state. So appreciate having this opportunity.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? I'll just say Superfly doesn't do anything half-hearted. Every project they're involved in around the country is a very, very successful music and lifestyle festival. And we are lucky that they realize that Phoenix was a target of opportunity, that we're such a large community, a music-loving community, and did not have a music and lifestyle festival of this nature. It is not going to be easy to organize inside the fence, if you will, with all the wonderful activities going to go inside the fence. It will not be easy to organize outside the fence. There's a lot of issues there as well. But I've said that one of the great things we're trying to do at the City of Phoenix is make the heart of our city, the heart of fun in the entire Valley of the Sun. And this work, I believe, is going to pay off, and it's going to be an awesome music and lifestyle festival. So thank you, Kathleen, David Kreider, Stephen, the entire team, and I would add on my staff, Nicole Pastor, who's put in a heck of a lot of work representing my office at all of the meetings, and she's had a chance to visit some of the other music festivals to see. So a great team, and it's going to be an awesome success. With that, roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, item passes on a 7-2 vote. Oh, I'm about to do it. Yeah, all right, next item on the agenda, I believe, is item 50. Is that correct? On our planning and zoning agenda. Item 50 is a proposed motion to it's an abandonment hearing officer's decision on a alley abandonment.
That's right, Mayor.
And the hearing officer decided to disallow the abandonment, and now there's been appeal of that, is my understanding. Maybe our planning director can better describe what the case is about. So we'll start out with a staff report on item number 50. Then I'll hold the public hearing and hear any cards that we have, and then I'll see if there is a motion on the on this item. Mr. Stevenson.
Mayor, members of council, I'll be brief here. I do have a quick presentation. The two sides have reached agreement. There's a memo with some revised stipulations that were handed out at the back earlier, and so I believe a couple of people may want to make comments, but both parties are in support. This is a request to abandon an alley around the intersection of 32nd Street and Campbell, as shown on this map, and 7 feet of additional right-of-way for Campbell Avenue. Here's an aerial picture showing the alley as it exists today from 32nd Street. Here's an aerial showing the site again. The alley goes around this commercial center. There are residents on both sides of it right here. This just shows the middle part of that area. The abandonment hearing officer did recommend, this one here, recommend that it be denied. However, since that time, the applicant and neighbors have undertaken a series of discussions. They stand before you with an agreement that covers all of their issues, and I believe Mr. Baugh here is on behalf of the applicant, and Mr. Robert Warnicki is here on behalf of the neighbors to answer any questions on this item.
All right, thank you very much. That is the staff report. The next item will be to hold a public hearing. I do have a few cards in favor of the item. I'm guessing that Councilman DeCiccio has a motion prepared that reflects that compromise. So you have up to 2 minutes, but you don't have to utilize the entire 2 minutes under those circumstances. We'll now open the public hearing. First speaker is Robert Warnicki, attorney representing the neighbors. Mr. Warnicki, did you wish to provide testimony, or is everything covered in the motion? It's up to you.
Thank you, Mayor. This is Robert Warnicki. I was going to have, actually, Adam Baugh was going to speak first on behalf of the applicant, and I think we've got everything together, but I might speak just a moment or two after that.
That's perfectly fine. I do not have a card, but that's fine. Wait.
Surprisingly, I always have it in my pocket.
All right, we'll come grab it. Anyway, Mr. Baugh, you go first.
I'll be brief, and I don't need 2 minutes, but I just want to say I appreciate the council's deliberation of this matter. You certainly heard a lot from this case, and appreciate your patience with this. More importantly, I'm very grateful for the work that we've been able to compromise and work together with the neighbors. I found them to be pleasant in this process. And at the end of the day, although sometimes things do come down to the wire, the deal was cut, and we have an agreement in place, and grateful to move forward with the support of the neighbors on this case.
Thank you very much, Mr. Baugh. Mr. Warnicki, did you have anything to add to that?
Yes, Mayor, I do. I just wanted to also thank each member of the council who we met with, and we appreciate the time and attention you gave to us. We believe that at the end, while we would prefer to have the alley, we got to a reasonable compromise, and I think that's where really the city wants people to go. The applicant has made some statements to us about the intended use of the property. It won't be a drive-through. They hope to have a sandwich shop. And we have a site plan, and we have agreements for buffers and other restrictions that will protect the neighborhood. And once again, I really appreciate the council reaching out to both sides and making it clear that you need to talk and you need to come to a deal, because sometimes I feel like I'm saving my city 1 foot at a time. And in this case, I saved it 5 feet on one side and 8 feet on the other. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warnicki. Mr. Stephen Pasco, you're in favor of the item. Did you wish to provide any additional testimony, or just want to register your support? You okay? Okay, how about Mara Cordova? Mara, did you provide testimony?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. I just want to thank you and your staffs, and also Alan Stevenson and Ms. Hoffman. They've been very understanding. This has been an excruciating experience for the neighbors, and all of you have taken your time to listen to us and help us come to this compromise, so we appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Is anyone else here in the audience wishing to testify on item number 50, 32nd Street and Campbell Avenue? Ma'am, I see your hand up. Did you wish to provide testimony? Please come forward. State your name and address for the record, then you have up to 2 minutes.
Hi, Lavana Buttram, 3215 East Meadowbrook. I just want to tell you all thank you very much. This has been grueling for us as neighbors, and you have been really terrific to speak and spend time with us and hear our concerns and give us some great advice. So I just want to thank you so much for everything that you've done and for the developer for working with us and putting all this together. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the kind words. Is anybody else in the audience wishing to speak on item number 50? Going once, going twice. The public hearing is now closed. Councilman DeCiccio, do you have a motion on item number 50?
I do, Mayor. And then before I do that, I want to thank all those that were involved in this. It was a very tough, it was a very grueling experience, I think, for everybody. This was a case that had it had at least 4 lawyers on it. And getting attorneys to agree to anything sometimes is very difficult, but they did a remarkable job on that. I want to give special thanks to Vanessa Salinas in my office, Sandy Hoffman, and Alan Stevenson. Thanks for putting in some late hours. A lot of these negotiations went on to 11, 12 o'clock at night. And then I don't think that there was a finality on this until just this afternoon. So for those that were involved in this, this is the way it's supposed to work. I know it's tough, but when everybody comes out feeling like they won, that's a good experience, especially when it comes to these types of developments. And I think this is a good example of how things should work, Alan and Sandy. Thank you for all your work on that. My motion is going to be the motion to overturn the abandonment hearing officer's decision and approve per the stipulations in the February 3rd, 2016 memo from the Planning Department and Development Director with the following change in stipulation number 9. This is the change I would like to have read into the record. There shall be no building encroachment within the former 20-foot alley except for trash enclosures. The trash enclosure shall be located as shown on the February 3rd, 2016 site plan, which is this one here, which is attached with the documentations that each individual on this council has, including staff.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. Any members of the council would like to comment on that? If not, roll call on Councilman DeCiccio's motion.
DeCiccio. Yes. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, that item passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is item number 51, which is an abandonment at 3rd Avenue and Flynn Lane. Would our city staff first provide a short report on this item, and then we'll hold the public hearing.
Mayor, members of council, this is also a request to abandon an alley. This one is just south of Glendale and 3rd Avenue. You see it shown on the aerial here in the crosshatch color. This one is just within a residential area, as you'll see, and there's not a development project as part of this request. This is a picture inside the alley as it exists today, closer towards that northern end. Here is a picture of the neighbor who I believe you'll hear from here in a few minutes, who's opposed to this request. That's his property, and his concern is that access to get his boat through the alley as it sits today. This is another picture of the alley as you enter it. You see on this aerial here, here's all the residents around here. It's supported by all of the residents. The only known opposition is this one resident right here. The request was denied by the abandonment hearing officer, and with that, staff's happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments by my colleagues? All right. Actually, we open public hearing. Right? So I will open public hearing. We do have some cards. We'll begin with Jeff Porter. A few others have donated time to Mr. Porter.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I don't think I'll need the full balance of the time, but if it would be all right with you, I'll hold some time for after to respond to opposition. Thank you. As you may remember, on November 18th, you, the council, voted unanimously in favor of a conditional approval of a request to abandon the alley behind our homes. It's been continued twice, I think, because of procedural issues. We're asking you to vote in favor of approval again and help us abandon the alley for the safety of our neighborhood. We think that the stipulations that were included in the conditional approval from November are a reasonable compromise and would help resolve the situation. Every day that passes without us having abandoned the alley is another day that one of us is substantially more likely to be a crime victim at considerable cost to the city and police time. I think in the past 13 months, we've had 4 burglaries, including 2 burglaries just since we started the abandonment process. We're asking you to help us abandon the alley and have it never be a city problem again, either for us or for the police department. Thank you. I'd be happy to answer any questions after.
Okay, and you obviously have some more time that's would be afforded your way if you choose to take it. All right, we'll go on to the next card, Linda Johnson, followed by Mrs. Mary Barker, then John Banker.
Please don't take my time.
No.
Hello, my name is Linda Barker Johnson, and what I'd like to tell you is that I bring a little bit different perspective. Just right off the bat, I think that the Barker family was approved during the Planning and Hearing Commission, and that this is actually an appeal of that process. Now, my name again is Linda Johnson. Mary Barker is my mother, and I said I wanted to bring a different perspective to this. I too have been part of this property for 55 years. I grew up there, I raised my children there, and I'm very lucky to have grandchildren that will also be there. This is the focal point of our family. This is coming home. What I don't think the Planning Commission showed you this, there's a flag area back there. And this is not about the use of our flag area. This is about access to it. Our family for 55 years has used this land. But I like Councilman DeCiccio. I'm not from here. I used to be. But back a long time ago, before there were any homes here, when it was put up and it was platted. My mother is the only one that's saying, I don't want this, because she's the only one with the exceptional lot. She was deeded a piece of land called a flag, and back then the city said in 1960, during common law applications, and again in 62 during applying a statute, that she would always have access over a public alley to her land. That is what's being taken away from her. It was grandfathered into her. She deserves to keep it. We deserve as a family to be able to keep it, to continue our life, the activities we've done as a family, and to carry on with more activities as we've done for a family. But why are they doing this? Well, if you've been to our neighborhood, I don't know if you've driven by, some of the neighbors along that access where you showed the signs were posted have a small backyard. If they get 8 more feet, they can add an extension. And they can circle our lot. Well, we will not be able to use our lot anymore. They will have taken away our lot. Now, many people in the past have asked to buy my mother's lot, and she has continuously said no. But this action, what they're doing, with the help of their attorneys, we don't have an attorney right now, can't afford one, but they're going to take our land, my mother's land. It actually put her in the hospital. She had a stroke the last time this was brought up. You can't take something away from someone just because you want a bigger yard. That's not how we're made. We're made to do the right thing, and it's really, really hard to know. I mean, it's really easy to know what the right thing is, but having the courage to do it, this is not a good thing. And Councilman, my mother and brother have called you, and I love how the last group came up and said, you work together. They never talked to you. We didn't know what was going on. So please, deny this abandonment. Do the right thing.
Thank you, Ms.
very
Johnson.
much.
Next speaker is Mrs. Mary Barker, followed by John Barker.
Hi.
I'm Mrs. Barker. That's the one that all this confusion is about, I guess. Anyway, I'm not in favor of having a roadway across my backyard. Some of the reasons why I'm against all this, as my daughter explained, I have 13 pine trees in my yard. 13 pine trees, 2 big trees, a fig tree, which is next to the alley. Then I have a bevy of hibiscus and a bevy of pittosporum, numerous trees and things in my yard like that. So I've lived in this house since about 1960. In fact, I was living there before any of these neighbors were born. I lived there from 1960 until the present time. I've never moved. I've always been there with my children, with my family, with all those trees, and I worked for 40 years. Thank you, Miss. Never missed a day of work in 40 years. Now, I've been sick lately, but I've had kind of a heart attack and all that stuff, but I'm resting and trying to take over that. Now, we've used the property a great deal. I have, other than my family and children coming out all the time, I have brothers, 4 brothers, and they hunt and they fish and they park their gear and stuff and come up the alleyway to the flag lot. They park the stuff. Everything is safe there. And everything is just fine. And so in summation, my children and I, we like the yards, we like the place, we're satisfied with things the way they are. I don't want anything from anyone. I want them just to leave myself and my property alone. I'm happy there, I always have been. I have no complaints about the city, so I'm just fine. They have their own homes, live there. Thank you.
Thank you very much for taking the time to come down for your testimony. John Banker, did you wish to provide testimony on this item? Followed by Brenda, is it Allow? And then John, John, did you fill out 2 cards, maybe? The John Barker, is there a John Barker?
That would be me.
Okay, same person, okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
You have the 2 minutes.
Okay. Good afternoon, I'm John Barker, 318 West Flynn Lane. At the onset, I realize the time period is really abbreviated from the last city council when I noticed that even the Roosevelt district, they spoke for hours, but we'll try and make the most we can in 2 minutes. Because of that, I'm going to limit what I want to communicate to you today to our legal concerns for this conduct. But before I begin that, I want to say directly, Mr. DeCiccio, we do not want a driveway in our backyard proper. Prior to the first adoption of the Streets and Sidewalk Ordinance in 1962, Brentwood Park subdivision was created in February of 1960, including a public alley, which at that time provided unregulated vehicular and pedestrian access to all abutting private property owners, pre-1962, under common law authority. Now in 62, the city first acquired their statutory authority, specifically under provision 3143, which expressly provides continuing express permissible right-of-way over a public alley from the public roadway of 3rd Avenue for the benefit of abutting private property owners. Now, the applicant has taken the position that we never had any rights over the alley, but their conduct is not consistent. Under 3143, this permissible right-of-way access has been indispensable necessity not just to our gated entry, but to the driveway, carports, garages, and buildings, which all actually front on the public alley. This roadway access to all abutting owners first was adopted in 1962, and that is the only express provision. The code expressly defines a private shared driveway as a roadway, and a driveway shared is defined under the code as a private roadway which provides secondary access to 2 or more lots. Under 3164C5, no portion of a roadway upon vacation shall accrue to an abutting property owner. In the event of reversal of the denied abandonment application under the express related code C5, no shared private driveway nor private vehicular access way would be accruable to provide secondary legal roadway access to any property off Third Avenue. Currently, pre-abandonment, all abutting private property owners maintain this legal vehicular roadway solely as a mechanism of 3143. Finally, I want to refer you to Phoenix City Code 3164.1, which is a subdivision of 3164. Now, although I understand the planning department is consistent and they still oppose this, it's very clear in this that it says no roadway shall be vacated so as to leave any land adjoining such roadway without an established public roadway connecting that land with an established public right-way.
Thank you, Mr. Barker. I gave you a little extra time because I wanted you the opportunity to create a record in case there is an appeal from this body, but it's probably been about 3 to 4 minutes at this point.
Could I wrap it up in 1 minute?
Please, yep.
Okay. What I'd like to say then, this provision under 3164.1, if they don't maintain any further roadway access, including our property, off this public alley, which is a roadway, then none of the owners would have any further access, legal access vehicularly, to their properties for secondary access. I don't know that the city has contemplated this in this action. Finally, I want to say, because my sister did touch on this permissive right-of-way provided by the configuration of our flag lot relocation would render the land utility we've enjoyed from that access to be a loss of substantial value. Curb cuts, driveway aprons, building permits, bond expense, tree removal, regrading elevated driveway pad above irrigation grade, dust proofing, relocating irrigation infrastructure improvements, existing building improvements, gradation variation, all this would have to be done if we follow Mr. DeCicio's suggestion and move our vehicular access way to another roadway which does not adjoin the land that's contemplated to be vacated. So I'd ask you to consider all of this together with the planning department's recommendation that you deny this application. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Barker. Brenda Allow, is that the right? Please, good to see you up to 2 minutes.
Good afternoon. It's Brenda Allen, but it's Brenda Barker Allen. I'd like to thank you for your time today. I left a job in the medical profession to come here. I'm also a volunteer for the probation department in Los Angeles, California. And the reason I'm here today is because I feel there's really a disservice that's happened to my mother here. They've tried to do this legally the right way, and they prevailed. I'm here because my mother had a stroke when this all came around the first time and was very ill, and I'm very concerned having to go through all this time. So I appreciate your time, but I'll be very brief. Number one, I'd like to say, Councilman DeCicio, that I'm here to say that our family, and I want to make clear, we do not want a roadway through my mom, Mrs. Barker's backyard proper. Secondly, we are trying to maintain our property that we have used for 55 years. It's part of our family. My mother's house is a foundation of our entire family. We have children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and this is where we all come together. The boat, my boat, our boat that's on that flag lot, I have no intention of moving into my mother's backyard. My mother's backyard, especially since she had her stroke, is her sanctuary, where she goes and she relaxes. She likes to look at the birds. She finds peace. She has barbecues. We enjoy croquet with our grandkids. Even though my mother's having a hard time walking right now, our backyard is exactly that, a backyard. The land that was given to her over 55 years ago is where we have not only put boats, camping trailers, bicycle trailers and bikes, motorcycle equipment and motorcycles. We've used this. This is part of our life. By taking away the alley, we can't get in to do what we plan to use it for and what we have used it for. I have a trip this coming April. where we are bringing a motorhome. My girlfriend and I give clothes and help the poor. We have a trip planned. Now it's like, what are we supposed to do? We have always used this property. And I just want to say, really a big reason I came is because I do work with young people at juvenile hall. And one thing I always tell them is you do the right thing. You follow the law. Many of these kids don't want to because their life's been hard. They don't believe in the law. They don't believe in the justice system. But you know, as a mentor and a volunteer, I work with them. And I tell them, you must obey the law. You must follow the law. As hard as it seems to do, you must do that. And the law will work for you if you follow and obey it. And I'm asking you today, my mother prevailed twice. I ask you to stand behind the decision and not abandon the alley so she doesn't lose her way of getting into the alley. Because without that alley, it's worthless. And it ruins our family's life because we're very athletic and we have lots of recreational uses and we've used for 55 years. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, speaking in favor of the proposal is Jeff Porter, and you've had a few people donate time. Zach Sheridan, Mike Yancey, and John Bearer.
Yeah.
So you have a little extra time, but be as reasonably brief as possible.
I'm back. I won't take too much time. Just to clarify a few things, it might be misleading from the number of speakers. 8 out of 9 residents support this abandonment. It's one homeowner who does not. The city code allows you to dispose of an alley if it is no longer necessary for the public use. 8 out of 9 residents who abut the alley agree that it's not necessary and that the alley is dangerous. I've gone through, we've had 4 recent burglaries. The other side has never touched on that problem. The only homeowners who oppose the abandonment, the Barkers, are opposing because they think the alley should be maintained for their own private benefit. There's never been any analysis of what is best for the public and the neighborhood on their side. Despite our disagreement, both before and after applying for the abandonment, we made several efforts at compromise, including footing the bill for alternative access, including all kinds of accommodations that none of our opposition have mentioned in their allotted time. We just wanted you to consider that, and we think that Councilman DeCicco's proposal from November 18th was a very fair and reasonable compromise. There's no roadway going through the Barker's lot. I'm not sure what that contention was. I think when this is all wrapped up, at least 8 out of 9 homeowners in the area will be very pleased and will be happy that they can live in a safer neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Porter. I have no other cards on this item. Is anyone else here to speak on item number 51, proposed abandonment, 3rd Avenue? And please come forward as quickly as possible. State your name and address for the record, and you have up to 2 minutes to provide testimony. Is anyone else here on this item? All right, please.
Hello,
Oh,
John.
wait,
John, can I speak in rebuttal? Do
No, you
allow
may
that?
not. Yeah, I gave you
Well,
more
you-
than 4 minutes. We have a
I'm sorry,
huge crowd here on a
Okay.
light of agenda items. I tried to be
He
as-
brought up issues.
I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, Ms. Barker. I gave you more than enough time. Much more than 2 minutes. Is anyone else here to provide testimony on item number 51? Going once, going twice. The public hearing is now closed. Councilman DeCicco, do you have a motion?
Thank you, Mayor. But first, just a short explanation of what this is that we're discussing right here. The City of Phoenix has control of this property. This is an abandonment. We're basically saying we're going to give this property up. In giving that up, then the property goes to the rightful individual who owns the property. That individual will then have to pay for that land. So what's occurring here is a neighborhood dispute between who owns the property, but the City of Phoenix is not making that determination today. All we're saying is we're going to abandon it, then it's going to go to the rightful owner. So the motion I'm going to be making today, Mayor, is that the motion to overturn the abandonment hearing officer's denial decision and approve the alley right-of-way abandonment request per the stipulations in the final abandonment staff report and the following additional stipulation. The abandonment applicant will offer to pay the property owner at 318 West Flynn Lane for the purchase and installation of a new RV gate for their 4th Avenue frontage. The cost shall not exceed $4,000. That means the applicant's paying for this. Whoever wins, or the applicant is the individual putting the application in. The applicant will obtain 3 quotes for installing the RV gate. Planning and Development Department staff will select the company to be used. So it's done through a neutral third party.
That's Councilman DeCicco's motion. Is there a second on that motion? All right, I'll second the motion. Any
I'm
comments?
just a little confused, I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. Well, first off, I second the motion. Now would be the opportunity to make questions on that motion. Councilwoman.
Okay. First I have a question for Alan. Is there anything on record that gave that property to them, that they own that property?
The deed.
So,
In the 60s, I think it was?
Mayor, members of council, so this alley was dedicated when the original Brentwood Park subdivision was developed. So when the plat was approved, back in the 50s, they, at that time, provided this alley and the lot lines as they exist today. So when you look at this, this is one lot. This red area just highlights that area where the boat is, but it's one lot that goes here, another lot here. The alley goes through all of this and is not used at all for any trash collection anymore today, so it has sat in that overgrown state with some of the pictures that I showed beforehand. And so the other neighbors are wanting to abandon it because of security. But there, we have reviewed the issues that were raised by John Barker with the law department, and they meet all the requirements that we bring this forward for you today, and the council is free to act.
Okay. Then I have a second question to the councilman. Who's paying who?
The individual who ends up winning, this is not a determination today. This is just an abandonment. So then it goes through a process of determining who's going to be the individual who ends up getting the property. That determination, then the applicant, well, then they pay for the property, they'll pay for the land, but also the applicant who put in the application for this is going to pay $4,000 toward the owner of the one property. It was just a way of compromising it.
Oh, ma'am, just a moment. I'll give you a chance in just a moment. I want to make sure the councilman has a chance to fully explain what his motion was, please.
It's not completely necessary to do that. It was just something that they needed, I think it was just a nice move by the neighbors to pay the $4,000 for the RV gate.
No, I
It was
take it, so
something that
they
did
have a
come up.
place to park the vehicles they were
Correct.
telling us about.
Yeah, in
Okay.
case they become adversely impacted by the decision.
Thank you.
And that is a part of the motion, is the $4,000 payment.
That's correct.
Okay. Any, Councilman Pastor, do you have questions?
Alan, the abandonment, can you point where the abandonment's going to be with your little?
Yeah, so this is the aerial here today. You see this red area is the area to be abandoned. And so that's the alley as it exists today. There's a little flag piece that was highlighted off that last slide. That's the part of the flag lot where the Barkers live that you heard from the family today. So it's this access that the picture I showed, here's the entrance into that alley, and then here is the little portion of the flag lot on the Barker property with the boat on it today.
Can you go back to one more? Right there where the red is, that's the Barker's property,
Correct.
correct? So
Yes.
that's the Barker's property, and as we abandon that area, you can go back to the other slide, please, because I'm trying to. That's that entryway that we're speaking of.
Correct, Mayor, Councilwoman Pastor. So this is the alley as it exists today that goes into this back portion of the lot where they can park the boat. So it's the loss of this access that the Barkers are concerned about. The stipulation proposed by Councilman DeCiccio would require the applicant to put a fence up here so that they could have access through the gate to park a boat or RV or whatever they wanted to back on that portion of their property. That way they would have access.
Okay, and I'm going to add more I need more clarity. Where do they park the boat now?
Now they're parking the boat in this little area here,
Okay.
which is the little flag portion of the lot.
Okay. Third question. They mentioned moving irrigation, all these other expenses. Do we know anything about that, or what are they speaking of?
Mayor, Councilwoman Pastor, I believe they're speaking of concerns that other issues would have to be addressed by parking the boat up front and building a new gate in this area here. We don't have any knowledge of what those costs would be or anything related to that.
And they would have to incur that cost? The owner.
Well, as currently proposed with Councilman's DeCiccio stipulation, it would be up to that maximum dollar value that was associated with it, but it's putting in a new gate.
Okay. Fourth question. I just lost it. I'll get back to it right now. Let me.
Councilman Waring is going to ask a question, and then if you think of it, we'll come back. Councilman.
That's fine, thank you. So it's not the Barker's property now where they're storing the stuff. It's the city's property.
No, Mayor, Councilman Waring, it is private property where they're storing it. The public property is the right-of-way through the alley to access their private property.
Okay, I was a little confusing. All right, thank you.
That's what I was going to ask. So
I knew that.
who goes to court? Because we're going to go to court to see who owns the property once we abandon it.
I'm assuming if this
that look
council
like?
supports Councilman DeCiccio's motion, then the Barker family have the opportunity to appeal to Superior Court.
Okay.
Mayor, members of council, you are correct. The Barkers could appeal to Superior Court. The way the ordinance works today is the adjoining property owners would each get a right to a first purchase for the half street of the alley adjacent to their properties. So in this exhibit right here, so you have two properties on this side of the street. It is a 16-foot wide alley, and so they each would have the right to purchase 8 feet. And then, because the city can't give away right-of-way, so we have to charge for that, so we don't have a gift clause issue, they would purchase it, and then they could extend their fences in the back. If, let's say, the owner on this side here, on the west side, chose that he did not want to have his 8-foot, he could sell it to this person here, but he would have to elect not to do it to allow that person to do it. The Barkers would have the ability to purchase their portion of the alley that abuts their little flag lot if they so chose as well.
Got it. Thank you for the
Any additional questions by members of the council? Okay, so Councilman DeCiccio has a motion. There was a second to that motion. Roll call. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Mayor, did you end the public hearing? I didn't catch
I
it.
believe I did, yeah. And then I went to the motion.
I'm
Okay,
sorry.
no problem. Thank you
Mayor,
for, Councilman DeCiccio?
Just one last point for clarification so that everybody understands what's occurring. Everybody gets to purchase what would be rightfully theirs, and it's generally half and half. And then that's where the dispute has been, is what is, who gets what out of this. But it's generally, all these things are decided on a half and half. This is not a determination today. This is just an abandonment where the city of Phoenix says we're relinquishing our control over this property. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. We have a motion. Oh, ma'am, a very short statement, please. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I don't want
Well, let's get her mic on, please.
Oh, is it on?
Now you are.
I don't want anyone to be confused about who can buy what part of the alley. The alley is not the concern, it's access to our property. When they abandon the alley, we cannot use our property anymore. They want to give us money to put a fence to our backyard, to park our cars in our backyard. Would any of you like me to ask you to park your cars in your backyard? We cannot access from 3rd Avenue that little strip of land because it is an isolated property, because there's over a 75-year-old fig tree, an irrigation system, so we cannot exit from the backyard. Putting a gate in there does not solve the problem. Keeping our access over this public alley will allow our family to keep our land. If you grant this abandonment and let everybody buy their part of the alley, and yes, we too can buy a portion of our alley, but we will lose access to our land. This is America. You don't take people's land.
All right, thank you very much for the additional information. All right, so we have a motion and we have a second. Councilman Waring has an additional question, please.
Alan, so they come in through the red corridor to the blue square or rectangle?
Mayor, Councilman Waring, correct.
So the houses to the north and south would each be eligible to buy half of that alley?
Correct.
Correct.
Have they tried to work out a deal where the Barkers just buy that out? They could, right? I mean, if they wanted to negotiate that?
Mayor, Councilman Waring, that is correct.
But that hasn't been discussed, or?
Right, that's a subsequent discussion of how they wish to divvy up who's going to purchase it. The ordinance provides for those who have that adjacent property to have the first right to purchase it, but they don't have to. And so that would be a discussion between the residents. They'd have to figure out who was going to do that.
The neighbors
Once
abutting
it's
the alley have the first option, yeah.
yes. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Sir, did you wish to provide testimony on this item? Well, you have to go to the microphone if you're gonna do it, so please, well, I appreciate you doing that, but we are televised, and folks at home have an interest in what you have to say, so you have to get to a microphone.
I'm actually not even here for this, but there's a lot
Sir,
of
who
emotion.
are you? And then,
there's a lot of emotion here.
What's your name, sir?
Eric Morelli. I'm with Surprise. I'm actually with doing something for Councilman DeCiccio regarding the religious groups. Plan to pray on the 14th or 17th of February. But in any rate,
you were moved to provide testimony on this item.
Yes, it just interests me. My theory is that maybe what could happen is it could be abandoned and then become something along the lines of a homeowners association, to where the homeowners are responsible for maintaining the property and for providing access, et cetera, because that's basically what it is. Once the city gives it up, it's private property. So, you know, I think maybe a homeowners association type situation might be something.
That may in fact be what the result is here. If the council supports Councilman DeCiccio's motion, I am guessing it will spark a lot of conversation among the neighbors and a creative solution will be found. Okay, we have a motion, Councilman DeCiccio's motion. We have a second.
I had one thing that
Mr.
was going to
Porter,
touch on.
please, very quickly as possible. We have a lot of people here.
I know
on
the
additional items.
council members were talking about what the access and the Barker's use of access of the alley. This is a picture of the front of the flag dated July 2nd, the day after we started the abandonment process, showing about a 20-year-old pine tree in the middle of the entrance to that. Since we started the abandonment process, that tree was removed and a boat was placed there. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, ma'am, did you wish to provide testimony? Could someone please provide access, microphone access? Ma'am?
City Council, Mayor, my name is Irma Grote, U.S. Air Force retired Major, Kuwait, OEF, OIF.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. I would just like to say, and I apologize for not following protocol, that if the city is willing to put a gate or pay for a gate, why would they not, in conjunction with these people or the rest of the neighbors in their entirety, put a gate at the beginning of the alley and then let them key card it or pad it, and that would solve the burglary problems. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you very much. We have a lot of very creative ideas and solutions. All right, we have a motion. We have a second. Mr. Barker, we are done. I'm sorry. Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela. Mayor Stanton.
Yes, the motion passes unanimously.